from the stars. They will look like us. They will sound like us. But they are not like us. They are demons. And the demons will take our world. They're here. They stepped onto our world from theirs. The Green Man waits. Fire, blood, gods are born. Gods are killed. Castles crumble. People tear as easy as parchment. Swifter than a crossbow bolt. More powerful than castle walls. Soaring over moats and fortifications. Look, up in the sky. Our end.
Within the nature of prophecy sits an interesting phenomenon known as the interpersonal expectancy effect, where a person or person's expectation for the behavior of another person or group serves actually to bring about the prophesized or expected behavior. This is most commonly known as a self-fulfilling prophecy. When the young John Constantine spoke these words within the Kingdom of Storms, in the presence of the King of Storms, it set forth a paranoia that has grown and led to this very moment. High atop the castle, in the pouring rain, the Bat Prince holds his father and king, who lay shot and dying, really echoing the origins of Batman in most DC continuity. And in his pain, he lets out that familiar bright red blast of anguish that we had seen from Jor-El earlier, really solidifying what he had told Bruce about his lineage. And this light was so bright that it was seen within the castle, alerting the royal family. And by the time the elves reached them, it was clear that Jor-El was gone. Lara weeps holding her fallen love, while Kal-El is nearly catatonic in a state of shock, something you do not often see from Superman. Meanwhile, Bruce Wayne, captain of the guard, leaps over the castle wall in pursuit of the assassin, and he is promptly greeted by Alfred, the master-at-arms for the House of El. Bats tells him that there was an arrow shot from Hob Forest, and as they race off towards the wood line, a second arrow is fired, but this time, Bruce catches it mid-air. Ollie and I have the same expression. Within one swift move, the Dark Knight leaps off of his horse, drawing his blade, and lops off the archer's arm. Missing a limb, pinned on his back with a blade to his neck, it is clear the green arrow is going nowhere. Alfred even tries to pull Bruce back, and we get to hear Batman lay out his no-kill rule, which is an integral part of his character. I'm really glad to see that it's true for this iteration of Batman as well. Now, like I said, this story gets crazy. Whether or not that moral code is upheld throughout the entirety of this run remains to be seen. Now we flip back to the other side of the coin, to the Kingdom of Storms. And high atop a castle spire, we see a now adult John Constantine, smoking his pipe and awaiting news from the Green Man. They do a great job at teasing us with the Green Man. I know I was hoping for a reveal as soon as I saw him mentioned, but we won't see more than just a hand or a foot of him for a few issues. It's a great way to build tension, and a book like this thrives on tension. And while telling Constantine that the deed was done, he mentions again how the ring speaks to him. And this time, it told him to leave Oliver behind. Wow, okay, this is a ruthless lantern for sure. John says that he's going to update King Pierce, and here we finally get a good look at his royal family. Now, if you've read modern Black Lightning books or have seen his recent television series, then you're probably already familiar with Anissa and Jennifer, aka Thunder and Lightning. It's good to see them both here harnessing their powers, but the twist here is that of Jacob, the youngest. He is an original to this series and has the ability to control rain, and there's something so elegant and beautiful about that. I mean, because if first there is thunder and then comes lightning, surely rain would follow. And it looks like Constantine doesn't find him nearly as charming as I do. And once he gets King Jefferson alone, he tells him of Jor-El's end. And while Pierce seems confident that they are doing the right thing, Constantine voices his concern and a little reason. Even though it was his prophecy, he understands how complicated they can be, how muddled and often misinterpreted they can be. After all, from what their spies have told them, the elves really aren't that bad. Aside from the whole imprisoning all magical folk in their land, but apparently that's more of a Batman issue. And speaking of, we pick up within the throne room of the El Kingdom, and General Waller is demanding war. Ah, Amanda Waller. I wondered when she was going to turn up. Traditionally, the head of Argus, and I'm sure you've seen her around in the dozens upon dozens of appearances, from comics to animated series and films, live action films like Green Lantern, both Suicide Squads, the Arrowverse shows, the Arkham games, Lego Batman. She's been around, and warmongering is definitely her thing. And of course, Harley speaks the plain truth, that wars are dumb, in a manner only a court jester is allowed. I have a lot I could say about court jesters and harlequins, but I'll save my little tangent for later in the series. Alfred also speaks against the idea of all-out war. Being the last survivor of a war, he wishes to avoid it if at all possible. And as the room begins to argue, Bruce remains stone silent. Quinn asks for his input, but Cal snaps at her that it is not for Bruce to say. He brazenly says that he is not one of them, and then instructs them to inform him the moment that the assassin is awake, because they will not make a move until they have proof. And the rift widens. You can already see things between these two falling apart. Bruce is blaming himself for not protecting his king, and Alfred is reading the signs and warns that a war between the Kingdom of Storms and the House of El will not stop at those borders. And this leads us to the third kingdom, on Amazon Island. I was waiting for this. Any DC fan knows of Themyscira on Amazon Island. Used to be Paradise Island, but that's a story for another time. We're talking Wonder Woman, who's already perfectly suited for a medieval setting. And Queen Hippolyta stands on the docks, where a messenger has brought urgent news from the El Kingdom. Lois Lane, clearly the most fitting option. I mean, if we were to trace the professions of reporters and journalists back centuries before the printing press, we would have scribes and messengers. And Lois Lane is the top reporter in the DC universe. And on top of that, she is, a she, and last I checked, men weren't allowed to step foot on Themyscira. But remember, this is an Elseworld. We'll have to keep reading to see if that holds true here as well. She whispers the terrible news to the queen, who immediately plans to hold council, while Lois seeks out the princess. We are led to believe that she's looking for Diana, who she finds mid-sparring session. Diana tells her to pick up a blade and join in, which I'd love to see, but she solemnly tells them that she is not there for fun. She has grave news, and she tells them of the Green Man's assault and of Jor-El's death. Turning the page, we see that she's actually talking to Jor-El, sister of Cal, daughter of Jor, and princess of the El Kingdom. This is another original character to the series, though I'd wager that this is a reimagined version of Kara Zor-El, Supergirl, who traditionally is the cousin of Superman. And she is devastated upon hearing the news. She drops her armaments to the ground in shock. Diana takes her by the hand and tells her whatever she needs, she will be there for her. And for a lot of people, the first that they had heard of this series was because of this relationship here. When this issue first came out, a lot of people voiced their opinions about the pairing. Well, here's mine. I absolutely love it. Wonder Woman has 80 years of publication history from an island of all women. Same-sex relationships have never been out of the norm on Themyscira. Yet to my knowledge, and I know you'll correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, Diana has never herself been in a relationship with another woman. And getting back to the point, what is it that we do with Elseworld stories? We explore relationship dynamics. That's the basis of what this entire run is about, exploring an arrangement of DC characters to see how they impact each other's paths. Or at least that's how I look at it. Zala soars off in tears, and Diana asks Lois if the order came from Pierce, and she tells the princess the truth, that they do not yet know, but he is the most likely suspect. And if it was him, it will undo all of the work and the goodwill efforts over the years to prevent the prophecy, or as Diana calls it, the war against gods. Heading to the dungeon of the El's Keep, we see Bruce pleading with Cal not to act on his anger. But Cal repeats himself, and Bruce stands aside, letting him enter the archer's cell. Kal-El instantly notices his lack of appendage and comments to Bruce about whose anger needs to be checked, then demands that he and Harley leave them. As they make their way out of the dungeon, take notice of the captives that they are holding. Various metahumans like the Flash, Blue Devil, King Shark, and Detective Chimp, just to name a few. But Harley is trying to give Bruce some advice, because despite what he may think, that is what she is there for. Through their mockery, they provide humility and perspective. Court jesters also provide straight-up counsel and advice. There are very few people who can speak to a monarch the way that a jester can. And what she's saying to Bruce is a series of what-ifs. What if the prophecy is true? What if the elves are pushed into retaliation? Would that not then look to one side like the other part of the prophecy? What if their actions of locking magical folk away led to this distrust, which then kickstarts these things into play? But Bruce is so loyal, so blinded by his commitment to keeping the elves safe, that he instantly considers these words treason. And I love what she says here, that what she has said was honest, and how honesty is the most loyal thing there is. Back inside the Archer's cell, Cal tries to make one thing clear to Oliver, that even though he could easily kill him with a single glance, he wouldn't. Because despite what they tell you in the Kingdom of Storms, the elves aren't killers. They're not monsters. Yet deep in the night, King Pierce awakens to a rumble, thinking it could possibly be his daughter Anissa, utilizing her powers, maybe in her sleep. But she too heard the sound and came to check its source. Hearing his son's voice down the corridor, Jefferson runs to the prince's room to find Jor-El has blown a hole into the side of the castle. And as Jefferson screams for her to put his son down, she lifts the Prince of Storms high into the air over the kingdom. Jacob threatens to drown Zara by making it rain in her lungs. And sadly, he doesn't act quickly enough on his threats. And she drops him hundreds of feet to the stone ground. King Jefferson retaliates, letting out a massive shock of lightning. But his attack has little to no effect on the Kryptonian space princess. And here ends the second book of Dark Knights of Steel. I'm really enjoying the dive into this world, and things are only beginning. In addition to the main series, they've released a fun prequel book titled Tales of the Three Kingdoms, which contains 3 stories set at different points in the adolescence of Bruce, Cal, and Zara. And we'll talk about those as we go. But before we wrap things up, let's talk about the creative team, a top-tier pair making a top-tier book. This fantastic fantasy rework comes from writer Tom Taylor, who's known for his work on Suicide Squad, Injustice, and Deceased. And if you're interested in Deceased, Haas is covering the entire run this month. 1 issue a day, every day, for 32 days? Either way, it's been a wild story and a hell of a feat of video a day. I wish I had that consistency. Now, the illustrator who brought Taylor's vision to life is Yasmin Putri. Traditionally, I've seen Yasmin do a lot of covers and variant covers on Nightwing, Hellblazer, Avengers, No Road Home, Boom's Buffy, and the sensational Wonder Woman. So it's great seeing her do an entire book. Anyway, I think that's it for this one. Until next time, enjoy yourselves.